of the UN system. We have excellent cooperation with them, and I have reiterated our support more than ever before, because we understand how important multilateralism is and what an important role this institution can play for peace and stability. We are committed to the principles and objectives of the UN Charter, and we are also aware that there are elements that give preference to unilateralism over multilateralism, and one demonstration of that unilateral approach was seen on the 5th of August 2019. We've had a very frank and a very candid discussion on the Jammu and Kashmir situation. I have shared with the Secretary General Pakistan's point of view, Pakistan's concerns, and I've also highlighted to him what a challenging situation it has become post 5th of August. The illegal actions and unilateral actions taken by our eastern neighbor. I've also highlighted to him that how all shades of Kashmiri opinion, barring the BJP mindset, have rejected those actions. I've also pointed out the increasing ceasefire violations that have taken place post 5th of August, and that almost 200 days have gone by and the siege and the lockdown continues, and fundamental rights are being denied. I've thanked him for the statement made by his office on the 8th of August, reiterating the UN position on this internationally recognized dispute. I've also thanked him for permitting a briefing to the members of the Security Council by representatives of UNMOGIP and the political department of the Secretariat. He is the custodian of the UN Charter, and as custodian we have certain expectations, and I have pointed out 7 expectations of him. 1, that he should reaffirm the binding nature of the Security Council resolutions. 2, underscore the need to respect fundamental rights. 3, urge our neighbor to respect the 2003 ceasefire understanding between us. 4, consider Pakistan's proposal to strengthen UNMOGIP, which we feel has played a very important and continues to play a very important role. 5, ask the Commissioner of Human Rights, the UN Commissioner for Human Rights, to remain cognizant of human rights violations taking place over there, and to come out with the 3rd report. There was a report published in 2018, one in 2019, and now we feel the 3rd report should come out highlighting the current situation post 5th of August. We also, I've also asked him that there should be freedom of movement for the UNMOGIP people to fulfill their mandate. There's no restriction on our side. There are difficulties on the other side, and he should look into it. We discussed the Afghan situation. We've discussed the efforts Pakistan has made to facilitate the peace process, and there's recognition for that, and they acknowledge. And today we are being seen as part of the solution. There was a time when Pakistan was seen as part of the problem, but the pendulum has swung, and today the international community is seeing Pakistan as part of the solution. I also shared with the Secretary General the initiatives of the government vis-a-vis socio-economic issues, and I discussed our strategy to achieve our targets, Sustainable Development Goal targets, our SARS program, our Sehat Sahulat program, and also in conclusion, we also had a unanimity of thought on the challenge climate change imposes on Pakistan and this region. It was an excellent meeting, sir. Thank you for being here.
Thank you very much. Honorable Minister, ladies and gentlemen, it is a pleasure to be back in Pakistan, a country deeply committed to multilateralism and to the United Nations. This is my first visit as Secretary General of the United Nations, but as High Commissioner for Refugees, I had the opportunity, I was fortunate to be able to visit this country several times. And as I said this afternoon in the conference on sustainable development and climate change, what I've seen as generosity, as solidarity in the Afghan people has created a love affair between the Afghan people and myself. And I'd like to thank the government of Pakistan and Prime Minister Imran Khan personally for inviting me, as well as Foreign Minister Qureshi for his strong support of the United Nations. I have a full agenda, but there is a common thread to all my events and meetings here. It is simply this: to recognize Pakistan's outstanding generosity and solidarity over many decades, and to highlight its place in confronting some of the biggest global challenges our world faces today. I strongly believe it is time for the world to step back and look at Pakistan through a wider frame. One of the main purposes of my visit is to spotlight the real Pakistan with all its possibilities and potential. It is deeply rooted in Pakistani culture, from the vision of Muhammad Ali Jinnah to the philosophy of Allama Iqbal, to the music of Nusrat Fateh Ali Khan, from the courageous example of Malala Yousafzai to the giving spirit of Abdur Sattar Edhi, to the visual artistry and advocacy of Sharmeen Obaid Shinoy. And of course, on better days, we also see it from the bats of the Pakistan cricket team, both the men's and the women's teams, I might add. Here in Pakistan, we see solidarity in action. Pakistan is today the world's second largest source of refugees, and for decades it was the first. I look forward to taking part tomorrow in a conference marking Pakistan's 4 decades of support for Afghan refugees. For 40 years, despite Pakistan's own challenges, Pakistan has sheltered and protected Afghan refugees with limited support from the international community. I can testify to this. Having served as High Commissioner for Refugees, I always found in Pakistan a reliable and generous partner. One can only imagine how much worse the plight of Afghans would be and how much more unstable the region might be without Pakistan's stellar example of hospitality and compassion. The United Nations will continue to support Pakistan, and I call on other countries to support Pakistan and indeed show similar leadership in sharing this responsibility in this region and around the world. As we look to the issues of peace and security, the United Nations is profoundly grateful for the dedication and commitment of Pakistan's peacekeepers. Pakistan has consistently been one of the world's top contributors to UN peacekeeping, with more than 4,000 men and increasingly women serving today in 9 missions around the globe. I also appreciate the government's strong support for the Action for Peacekeeping initiative and its commitment to continue to improve the effectiveness of our operations. Foreign Minister Qureshi and I discussed regional security in South Asia. With respect to Jammu and Kashmir, I'm grateful for the work of the United Nations Military Observer Group in India and Pakistan. UMOGIP will continue to monitor the ceasefire at the line of control in accordance to its mandate. And today I was happy I could inaugurate the new premises of their headquarters. And I'm deeply concerned about the increase in tensions that we have witnessed last year. I have repeatedly stressed the importance of exercising maximum restraint and taking steps to de-escalate, both militarily and verbally, while reiterating my offer to exercise my good offices should both sides ask. Diplomacy and dialogue remain the only tools that guarantee peace and stability, with solutions in accordance with the Charter of the United Nations and the resolutions of the Security Council. Simultaneously, when we see situations of discontent and unrest, it is of utmost importance to ensure full respect for human rights and fundamental freedoms. Turning now to Afghanistan, I'm following closely the important efforts to bring peace to the country. Achieving a comprehensive settlement to the conflict is essential for saving lives and advancing sustainable development. It is my hope that discussions will be productive in leading to a reduction in violence, especially violence that harms civilians. And reducing violence is critical to build confidence and support for a peace process that leads to a lasting political settlement and a permanent ceasefire. Such conditions would contribute to enabling the peaceful return of displaced persons and refugees to their homes. I want to reaffirm that the preferred durable solution for refugees has always been voluntary repatriation in safety and dignity to their country of origin. And this is also true for Afghan refugees. Through its support to the ongoing peace efforts and building the necessary regional consensus, Pakistan continues to play a crucial role in realizing this potentially historic opportunity for peace. And the United Nations remains committed to supporting an inclusive and Afghan-led peace process that upholds the human rights of all citizens and leads to a sustainable peace in Afghanistan. During my visit to Pakistan, I also look forward to visiting the newly opened Kartarpur corridor, connecting two key Sikh pilgrimage sites. This is a welcome symbol of interfaith harmony, a unique experiment in cross-border ties, showing Pakistan's commitment to peace. The climate crisis is another key challenge of common concern, and once again, Pakistan is on the front lines as one of the most vulnerable countries on the planet. I welcome Pakistan's ambition to take concrete action with the 10 billion tree tsunami campaign and many other initiatives. For my part, I will continue pressing for action to limit global temperature rise to 1.5 degrees, which means to achieve carbon neutrality by 2050. And it means more ambition by all, more ambition on mitigation, adaptation, resilience and finance. And major emitting countries and industrial sectors have a particular responsibility to lead the way. And it means a successful UN climate conference COP26 later this year in Glasgow, and I count on Pakistan's strong commitment to that. Finally, I would like to recognize Pakistan's commitment to the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, the world's framework for eliminating poverty, achieving gender equality, protecting the environment, and building a fair globalization that works for all. Pakistan was in the global lead in integrating the Sustainable Development Goals into its own national development agenda. And this is yet another example of the commitment and vision that we need to see more of around the world. I look forward to the rest of my visit and engaging with the leadership and people of Pakistan, and the United Nations family is strongly committed to helping the country advance prosperity and peace for all. Thank you.
Yes, Indus TV, Isa Nakisaz. May I request you to please introduce yourself and also please let us know who the question is directed to.
This is Isa Nakwi representing Indus News. Excellency, I'm here. My question is that I'll also, as Foreign Minister Qureshi has mentioned, I'll also refer to your statement of 8th of August last year, in which you reaffirmed United Nations' principled position on the Kashmir dispute. I wish to know what practical steps could you and your office take for the solution of this issue? And secondly, we are about 1.5 months into the year 2020, and there have been more than 287 ceasefire violations along the line of control. I wish to know what's stopping United Nations to ensure that its military observers are given a hassle-free and free access to the line of control, as this may lead to a big conflict in the region. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. First of all, from the beginning, I have offered my good offices in relation to the situation, and of course, good offices can only work when accepted by both sides. On the other hand, I believe that there was an important contribution to clarifying what has happened by the reports that were mentioned of the Human Rights High Commissioner. On the other hand, it is clear that we have taken a position about the need for Security Council resolutions to be implemented and for effective de-escalation and dialogue linked to that, with another very important condition, which is full respect for human rights and continental freedoms in Jammu and Kashmir. In relation to the ceasefire, I visited Unmojib. We believe that Unmojib should have full freedom of movement. It has on the Pakistani side. We hope that this will also be achieved on the other side. And we will be strengthening its equipment capacity in order to better be able to implement its mandate.
I take a question from the international media representatives here. Yes, can I have the Reuters representative?
Reuters is not big.
Oh, okay. Yeah, okay. I'll take a question from Independent News, Mona Khan.
This is Mona representing Independent Urdu. My question is for Mr. Foreign Minister. The world is witnessing increased unilateral and xenophobic tendencies to exclude minorities on the basis of their religion, as we have seen the recent example in our neighbor India as well. So I just want to ask what steps your government have taken to curb and to address these issues internationally. Thank you.
Well, Pakistan has been voicing its concern at every possible forum. We feel that this act is discriminatory in nature, and it's not just Pakistan saying that. Today, there are voices within India that are questioning the reasoning and the need for this action. You've seen protests all over. You've seen chief ministers leading protests. You have seen there have been lives lost. Close to 25 people were killed by the security forces in India, and many have been wounded. So that is an ongoing process. Pakistan has and will continue to highlight that. In fact, today, what Pakistan was saying to the world, that listen, there is a new mindset that is governing India, and these actions have endorsed our point of view, and a large section of the Indian population is endorsing what Pakistan has been advocating.
Yes, the gentleman there.
Me?
Sorry for that. Thank you, sir. My question is to Mr. António Guterres. I'm the correspondent from China Xinhua News Agency. And as we know that 4 Pakistani citizens who've been affected by, sorry? Okay, I will be louder.
You need to speak slowly.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm the correspondent from China Xinhua News Agency. And my question is that 4 Pakistani citizens who've been infected by the novel coronavirus phenomena in China have already been cured and discharged 3 days ago. And as we know, the Chinese government and people have already been making an all-out efforts to fight the novel coronavirus disease with notable outcomes. So how do you evaluate those measures? And in terms of the top leaders commanding and mobilization of the whole country, do you think that China offers an useful reference to the other countries and the whole world in handling such a big public health threat? Thank you so much.
Well, first of all, in relation to the Pakistanis in China, I believe that the government has been in close contact with the World Health Organization, and that the government has acted in line with the principles defined by the World Health Organization in that regard. In relation to the situation in itself, it's of course a huge challenge. I believe that the response has been a very strong and very impressive response. Obviously, in a situation as complex as this, it is always difficult to have a quick solution, and the Chinese government was the first to mention that there were a few limitations and shortcomings, but I think that the effort that is in place is a gigantic effort, and we are very confident that that effort will allow for the progressive reduction of the disease.
Faisal?
First of all, most welcome, Mr. Secretary General, to Pakistan. I am Faisal Raza Khan from 92 News. My question is that, as Honorable Foreign Minister has said, would you agree to that early repatriation of Afghan refugees vis-a-vis to the peace process? Do you think that early repatriation would help a successful peace and reconciliation process in Afghanistan? Thank you.
I think it's very important to respect the principles. I mean, the principles that have always been principles shared between the government of Pakistan and the UNHCR have been the principle of voluntary repatriation in safety and dignity. What we believe is this is the moment in which we need to create an important pull effect in Afghanistan. Through peace and through reconstruction, the creation of jobs, the creation of opportunities, making the roadmap that was described by the minister, a roadmap to allow for a phased program of return of the Afghans to be entirely successful. I think now the biggest effort to be made is in Afghanistan, and I appeal to the international community to massively support Afghanistan, both to reach peace and then, based on peace, to do an effective reconstruction of the country, to create the conditions for not only the well-being of the Afghan people in Afghanistan, but for the effective repatriation of refugees from Pakistan and Iran.
Thank you. Can I have the Al Jazeera representative at the back, please? Anas.
Thank you so much, spokesperson. Thank you so much, sir. This is Anas Malik from Beyond. Sir, Pakistan has lost billions of dollars fighting the war on terror in an attempt to make this world a better place to live. And how do you see Pakistan's effort to counter the menace of transnational terrorism? And would you or your office play a role, an active role in convincing, because there are some countries who are not fully convinced with Pakistan's effort to counter the menace of terrorism. Would your office be playing a role to convince or convey to those countries that yes, Pakistan has done enough? How do you see that? Thank you.
Well, I can testify. I came once to Islamabad, and Islamabad was a military camp. And the Taliban was very close, the Pakistani Taliban were very close to Islamabad. They had overrun the Swat Valley, and they were even a little bit further south. And I have to say that to be today in Islamabad, a family duty station for UN staff, and to compare with the past, and to know what in between has been done in the territories that were Fatah and now I believe are integrated in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, and to see that an administration is being put in place, and to see that there is an intense program of development. I believe that one has to recognize that the efforts that Pakistan has made to fight terrorism are absolutely remarkable and that they were very successful. And everybody should support Pakistan to, I would say, consolidate this enormous effort that I could witness myself. As I said, I've been here in the worst phase of the problem, and it's very rewarding to come back and see how different things are.
Last question, Mateen Haider.
Mateen Haider representing GTV Network. Mr. Secretary General, there is another global issue, that is Islamophobia, and that why West fears Islam and the Muslims. And it is to be noted that Turkey, Iran, Pakistan and Malaysia have taken a joint initiative to counter this Islamophobia. We were there at UNGA when you also spoke about this in your speech in last year UNGA session. How you view these efforts and what further support you will extend to this initiative taken by Pakistan? And to Foreign Minister as well, your views as well. Thank you.
Well, Islamophobia is absolutely intolerable, as any other form of intolerance that we see today, be it against migrants or refugees that sometimes are attacked by populist politicians or other forms of religious hatred of all kinds. So it is, for me, absolutely evident that we need to fight Islamophobia very strongly. Hate speech is one of the most important instruments of Islamophobia, and we have launched recently, led by our Special Representative Against Genocide, we have launched a global UN initiative against hate speech, which I believe goes perfectly in line with the initiative that you have just mentioned. And at the same time, we are totally committed in our action around the world to fight against all forms of populism that try to use Islamophobia and other forms of hatred as a tool to win votes, which is totally unacceptable. It is unacceptable that people try to win power dividing the people. This is against all democratic principles, and I think it's our duty to preserve interfaith dialogue, to preserve harmony among religions, and I believe that my visit tomorrow to the corridor of Kartarpur will be a symbol of that dialogue and of that tolerance.
Mateen Haider Saab, in our discussions that I had with the Secretary General earlier on, I drew a comparison between the Kartarpur initiative and the Kartarpur spirit in Pakistan and the demolition of the Babri Mosque in India. Now, these are two clear manifestations where we stand and where we are seeing our neighbor heading. Islamophobia is a growing concern. Our government has taken note of it. We have raised it at every level. We feel that hate speech being used as a political instrument is very dangerous. It has already started impacting European politics. And you've seen how the far right has taken advantage of that. We have come to the conclusion that whenever